It is not who you are that's holding you back. It is the illusions of who you think you're not. This is Anders Hansen, and I'm here to help you shatter those illusions and live the life of your dreams.
We're going to be talking about the law of sacrifice, and it has sort of a negative connotation to it. We think of sacrifice as something negative. Once you properly understand this concept, and you will gain that understanding today so that you confidently can move towards that which is worthy of you. And once you gain that awareness, it's not a negative thing anymore. It's actually a very positive experience. You could also call it the law of release or letting go of. The law of sacrifice decrees that you and I have to first give up something of a lower nature before we can receive something of a higher. Now, I want you to write that down. Let's repeat that. Before you can receive something of a higher nature, before you can receive the good you desire, you have to first make a space for it. So in other words, you have to let go of something of a lower nature first to make the space for the greater that you desire. Because life is full. Your life is full. Your calendar is full. Your budget is most likely accounted for. Everything is full. All the space in your life is most likely taken up. If you just look around in your apartment, in your house, it's probably full of furniture. Most people will say, well, I'll give up the couch, the old couch that I really don't like, that I'm bothered at looking at it every day, but I'm going to tolerate it for now until something better comes along. Well, that's a wrong way of thinking. Give it up now and something better must arrive. So why is it, like most people, and you know this to be true from your own life, I know I do from mine, we're programmed to hold on to what we have and then try and get more into our life, right? We're programmed to hold on to what we have and try and get more. So when we're talking about release and letting go of, that means completely abandon. Letting go, completely abandoning it, setting it free to its highest possible outcome. Why is that hard? It's hard because you and I are earth-bound. We are mostly relating to everything we experience through our senses. Now we're going to get back to what that means in a moment and how to reverse it. But that is really how most people live. They only relate to what is physical in their life, and they see that as their assets, as their value. And that is why most people live in a prison of their own manufacture. The biggest part of manifestation is what you let go of rather than what you add to your life. So that's worth repeating too. The biggest part of manifestation, the biggest part of you bringing whatever you want into your life, the biggest part of that is what you let go of rather than what you add. Most people say, I'm just going to get this, I'm just going to get that. When I get there, then I will be this. The biggest part of manifestation is what you let go of rather than what you add. So this process of releasing and letting go of, it speeds up the manifestation, because what it does is that it releases you to a higher frequency. Alfonso says, this is big. Thanks. It is. It's an overlooked part of much of this work, I believe, in this area of personal development. We've been programmed to cram more in, and then we hope at the same time to get more while your life is full. It doesn't work that way. So this process of releasing, letting go of, it speeds up manifestation. It releases you to a higher potential, to a higher frequency. So when I left Denmark close to 15 years ago, 14 and a half years ago now, I just knew what I had was what I didn't want. That was it. Maybe you right now look at your life, you look at your circumstances, you look at results, and you know that what you have is what you don't want. Maybe if you can get there, you are off to the races, my friend. That's where I was. I knew I didn't want the income. I knew I didn't want the social circles. I knew I didn't want the sickness, the confusion, everything that didn't work in my life. I knew I didn't want that. So in a desperate attempt to reinvent myself, I didn't know what to do. I mean, I hadn't studied these concepts before. I just didn't know what to do. So in a desperate attempt to reinvent myself, I gave up everything I had. I gave up the present model of my life. I let the past version of myself die. Everything in my life. I let it go. I sold everything I had. What I couldn't sell, I gave away. I created this space. I made an irrevocable decision to leave everything behind. It had nothing to do with the country, beautiful country. It was the person I had become that I didn't want anymore. But I also intuitively knew if I wanted to create something better, I had to first let go of what I had. I couldn't possibly attract greater friends while I was hanging around with the people I was around. They weren't going anywhere. I couldn't possibly attract greater health if I stayed in the same habit patterns that I was engaged in, and on it went. So it's, the thing about it's hard to give away, the idea of it's hard to give up is the effect. Remember, there's a primary law in the universe called cause and effect. There's cause and effect. Emerson said that's the law of laws. There's an unseen cause behind every expressed effect. And the hard to give away part is the effect of an unseen cause. And the main cause is lack of faith in our ability to obtain and attract new things, ideas, etc. I want to repeat that. This is so important. The whole, it's so hard to give up. That is a symptom. All right? Oh, I can't really give up. It's a symptom of an unseen cause. And the unseen cause resides in your mind. It's part of your paradigm. And the unseen cause is lack of faith in your ability to obtain, create, and attract new things and ideas. Why is that? Why do you think that is? Athena says, I love your experience, Anders. Very encouraging. Thank you. Well, I'm just a regular guy. I don't consider myself to be really complicated. I'm extremely simple. I just went to the school of life long enough to learn something. And all I do is want to share it because it changed my life so profoundly. This is what I'm going to be doing all the rest of my time here on this planet. I know that. Because I feel we should have been given this in school. We weren't. We weren't taught any of the necessities in school. We were just taught to remember stuff. We read the book, repeat the book, remember, read, repeat, read, remember, repeat. That's the read and remember, repeat factory that we went to. We get a book, we demonstrate we can remember it, and then we pass the test. And then we get another book, and another book, and another book. So you have a lot of well-educated intellects who can't make their life happen. Their intellect is crammed, filled up with information. They can repeat all this. And you look at their results, they're mediocre. They are terrible compared to all the information they have. Why is that? And then you have other people who are just creating results all over the place, and they just haven't maybe gone to a lot of schooling. It's all paradigms. That's it. Why is it that, that we don't trust ourselves enough to create, obtain, earn, whatever it is that we want? Why is that? Why do you think that is? I'm going to give you a little hint. It starts with we do not understand ourselves. That's why. We don't understand ourselves properly. That is why we have a challenge in letting go of first, because all we do is relate to the physical. We talked about that before. So you and I live on 3 planes. Whoops. This is the joys of a manual setup on top of an office chair. All right, here we go. I think we're stable now. Okay, good. So we know that there's an infinite number of frequencies. We're surrounded by, we're living in a sea of energy. Everything is energy. That's all there is to it. Match the frequency of the reality that you want, and you can't help but get that reality. Einstein said that's not philosophy, it's physics, right? There's an infinite number. Now, let's look at us from a little different perspective. Hopefully this understanding will help you build faith in your own ability to create, to be, to do, to have, and that makes it easier to release and let go of. All right? Because you're building faith and creating understanding in relation to something so much greater than what you experience in your physical world. These are all effects. Think about it. This physical world that we experience is not where things are. That's where things end up. And if we keep relating to where things end up, we keep living in reverse. So you have spirit, God, energy. Where spirit is omnipresent. It's all over the place at the same time. It's within you. It's within me. It's everywhere. Where do we go to pull down the thoughts? We go to spirit. Where are thoughts? They're omnipresent. You can think the same in New York as you can in Sydney. It takes the same thought power to think to these destinations. And all the knowledge, and this is a big idea, all the knowledge that ever was or ever will be is 100% evenly present in all places at the same time. That means the way to produce your goal is already here. The way to build a Tesla was always here. The internet was always here. The way we communicate now, that way was always here. Somebody just became aware of how to produce it on a physical plane, but the way to do it was here. So it was awareness that took us out of the cave and put us in a condominium. Right? So the ideas is a spiritual sea of energy that we're surrounded by. We have the intellect, our intellectual mind, right there in the center, and the intellect can go to pure spirit, build the ideas, pull down the ideas into the intellect, and eventually those ideas will manifest in physical form. But let's look at this again. You and I programmed to relate to this. That's all we relate to. We're earthbound, as we talked about earlier. Our energy goes to our physical senses. You and I have not been programmed to take the intellect and go to pure spirit. Go to the higher, use our higher faculties. You and I have 6 mental faculties. They're right in the center of our consciousness. We're born with them. That's what we teach in many of our programs, and that's one of the great reasons to get in touch with one of our coaches is to learn more about this. We have intuition, will, reason, memory, perception, and imagination. 6 mental faculties. They're resident in our intellect. We can use those mental tools to go that way. And the more you get to know you, the more you will build faith in the idea that everything you see in the physical is an expressed effect. And when you really get that, not just understand it intellectually, my gosh, we can do that in 10 minutes. No, when you really get it emotionally, when it becomes part of your habitual behavior, everything in your life shifts. When I moved from Denmark, I gave everything away, as I said, everything. I had nothing left. I had 2 suitcases and a deck of cards, my last representation of my career in magic. I never felt as rich. I never felt as prosperous as when I lost everything. And people say, well, that's crazy. You didn't have anything. That's true. I didn't have any of the illusions. They were all gone. But you can't take away what is. You're already rich. You can only take away the illusions. Most people are programmed to relate to all this stuff around them, thinking that that's what makes them rich. No. They're living in a prison of their own manufacture. They're miserable people. They accrue all the physical stuff around them, thinking that that's security. You will never be really secure until you learn to better yourself. That's security. When you really learn to use your higher faculties, you'll have everything you could dream of on the physical plane. But that's not what the value is. I don't place the value there anymore like I used to. Of course I enjoy the physical stuff and the freedom and the car and everything else that I've created on a physical plane, but they're just expressed effects. If I lost everything yesterday, tomorrow, I'd just start all over again. I'll use the same mental faculties to rebuild my life. You can do the same thing. But if we keep relating to the physical, that's when we will have a hard time releasing. Does that make sense? Let me know in the chat. Let me know in the chat. Does that make sense to you? Like, if we keep relating to what is on the physical plane, we will stay stuck. Alfonso says, love the concept of reverse engineering as the approach to manifest from the soul. Yeah, this is the only way to go. This is the way to do it. Good. It's not hard, Astrid. If you tell yourself it's hard, it will be hard. Do you want it to be hard? Probably not, so stop telling yourself it's hard. I'm so happy and grateful now that I release easy and effortlessly. I'm so happy and grateful now that everything in my life flows freely and easy. That would be the right story to tell yourself. You see, you are listening when you write this, when you think this, when you talk limitation. You are listening. So if we tell ourselves it's hard, it'll be hard. If we tell ourselves it's easy, it'll be easy. If we tell ourselves we're prosperous and healthy individuals, we will be. But the more you tell yourself that you can, that it's hard, that it's a struggle, the more it will be a struggle. Sandy says, yes, great message. Good to have you here, Sandy. Beat says, I understand. Thank you. Yes, says Susanna. I love that. I love that you're that dialed in. Makes total sense, says Fiona. Yes, I can see it now, says Karine. Good. Because what we really want to make sure we understand is, and I want you to write with me here, nature, and we are part of it. Make no mistake about it. We're part of nature. Nature abhors a vacuum. Nature abhors a vacuum. When you create space in nature, that space is filled up by something greater. Your life is the same. Nature abhors a vacuum. Our job is to make sure we are willing to pay the price. We're willing to create the space. All right. So nature abhors a vacuum. Write that down. And let's come back to what we talked about yesterday. We talked about the creative process. So we know that you have your goal in your fantasy, in your imagination. Before it can become a serious theory in your mind, before it becomes a goal, you have what you want on the intellectual plane. You see it in your imagination, so it's there. People will say, well, it's not because it's not there yet. It is because you can see it. Because other people can see it with their physical eyes doesn't mean it's not there. Remember, everything is created twice. First, as a picture in the mind. Secondly, on the physical plane. So there's two questions we have to answer yes to before our goal will start to move into physical form in our life. And this is where the law of sacrifice comes in. So the first question is, am I able? Am I able to pull this off? Am I able to do this? Now, if you get really honest with yourself and really study yourself, you will come to the conclusion that you have infinite potential. You have more potential than you will ever hope to use in your lifetime. Now, your obligation to yourself is that you bring as much of that potential to the surface in your lifetime. And if you don't do that, it is a form of self-betrayal. You're betraying that infinite power and that infinite potential that you've been gifted. So are you able to? That has to be a yes. Now, don't confuse not able to with not knowing how. That's different, right? So people say, well, I don't know how. I don't care. That doesn't matter at all. You will become aware of the how. That's the fun part. Are you able to? That must be a yes. There's probably people who've already done what you want to do, so they are living proof that it can be done. So you can't. Well, I don't know how, I don't have the resources. None of that matters. I'm this old, I'm that young, I live here, the economic circle. BS. Just send it away. Don't believe it. It has nothing, it has no bearing on where you're going. None. Am I able to? That has to be a yes. That must be a yes. That's the first one. I see some yeses already. Now keep writing. The more you lean in here, the more you give, the more you share, the more you commit yourself in the chat, the more you will get back. So am I able to? Has to be a yes. You are God's highest form of creation. And that whole idea about playing it safe and just going for what I know I can do, all of that, should not give it energy. Of course I can, says Susanna. Good. Now this is where the law of sacrifice comes in, because the next question, am I willing? That is where most people trip up. They intellectually say, yes, I'm willing, but their behavior will indicate something else. Why is it? So if I were to ask you, do you believe you are a soul with an infinite potential on this plane, on this physical plane? You say, yeah, I believe that. Well, why is it then that you're stuck in a job, you've been there for 10 years, you hate the job, you don't like it? Why is it that you don't step out and bet on yourself? If that belief was integrated, you wouldn't stay there. Yeah, I believe I deserve a loving relationship. Well, what the heck are you doing staying in the one you're in where you're not being treated right? So the belief is obviously not integrated. It's just the belief is only resident on a conscious level. And we'll get into that in a moment, all right? So there's a creative flow of energy that flows freely to and through you. Now, and it's necessary for that energy to flow freely for you to achieve what you want to achieve. There is no place for frustration, despair, envy, jealousy, resentment. There's no place for that in this work. None. And if you have challenges with negative emotions like that, get into our Gratitude Magic Challenge. 10 days will take you through everything. Step by step. It's free. You can get into it on our website. It's really effective. And it will help you, you know. But you cannot create more if there's a kink in the hose, if there's negative suppressed energy in your subjective mind. All right, so we need to first, and this is where the law of sacrifice comes in, you need to first let go of those negative emotions in favor of something else before you can expect something better. All right, so let's finish the creative process here, and then we're going to look at how results actually happen. So am I willing to pay the price? I was willing to pay the price when I started this work. I was willing to chop off my right arm for better results. And, you know, I've always done that. I've always been a guy who went all in. When I decided to do something, I just would go all in. And I think that served me quite well because I don't let the physical control me, at least not as much as I used to. Now, am I perfect? No, by any stretch of the imagination. Am I perfect? My physical presence here would indicate that I still have a lot to learn. But we can all get better at this. So let's complete this. Am I able to? Yes, that was yes. Am I willing to pay the price? There is a price that has to be paid. There is no free lunch in this world, even though right now many people kid themselves into believing that there is, that somebody's going to come and save them. There is no free lunch. Everything has a price to it in your life too. So are you willing to pay the price? Are you willing to spend less time with your family on a short-term basis to gain a longer-term win? Are you willing to give up the bad habits that you know are destroying your health in favor of something new? Are you willing to let go, completely abandon the relationship that has not served you for years in order for you to attract something better? Are you truly willing to pay the price? Get honest with yourself here. Most people lie to themselves. I'm just going to wait a little longer. I can't make the decision right now. Well, in 6 months, I'm definitely going to make that. Well, then we just don't deserve better results, do we? Because we can't make up our mind. We can't make the decision. And indecision is actually a poor self-image. We're going to talk about that on Thursday. So, oh yes, says Marianne. So before that fantasy can become a theory, we answer yes, I'm willing to pay the price. I don't know how, but I'm willing to do whatever it takes within the laws of society and nature to make this happen. I'm willing to pay the price. In the moment you say yes, that becomes a goal now. It's not a theory anymore. It becomes a goal, and it starts to move into physical form with and through you. It happens by the way of a law called the perpetual transmutation of energy. Alfonso says, big yes. Grit says, yes, I'm willing. Grit, you demonstrated by your behavior that you're willing. You just committed yourself to massive growth in our Secret to Real Magic program. Congratulations on that decision. It's going to serve you years into the future. I know for many folks who have signed up for either one of our programs, maybe recently or a longer time ago, it wasn't an easy decision. But you see, before you can possibly expect something better, you first have to give up something of a lower nature. Maybe you have to sell some stuff, get rid of some stuff, create the funds to make it happen. I did. I drove Uber. I put my ego aside and borrowed money from my brother. I did all sorts of things to make it happen. I was willing to do whatever it took because I knew what I had was what I did not want. Astrid says, what if your choices affect others? Well, so be it then. Are you living your life, or are you living of course it will affect others. But when you're living your highest version of yourself, it will affect them longer term positively. It may have a temporary price. Yes, they might not like it. But are you living your life, or are you letting other people run your life, Astrid? You really got to ask yourself that question. Susanna says, I love my program, Anders, and feel the difference already. So good. So good. So when the goal is here, physical fact, it's there for the world to see. Now you are greatly equipped to go back and build a bigger and greater fantasy, but now you have to pass the test again. Now you get to this level and you realize, man, I could have gone there. Holy smokes, what now? Now I'm going to go global. Now we're going to turn it into an 8-figure thing or 10-figure thing. We're going to go straight for the gold. Are you willing to pay the price then? Are you willing to put everything on the line again in favor of something better? I'm always putting everything on the line. I do. And most people say, well, that's sort of gambling. No, it's calculated risk-taking. It's a big difference between calculated risk-taking and playing it safe. The people that play it safe, they die. They just die. Mentally, they die. They miss out on life. They never learned what it means to live. Grant says, for people like me who fall easily into letting the pressures of the physical affect their lives in a big negative way, the 10-day gratitude challenge is an incredibly powerful tool. It feels weird to step out of the comfort zone and start to shift the paradigm, but so worth it. Grant, you are a superstar, and thank you for sharing. I really appreciate you. We're going to catch up one of these days. Say hi to your beautiful family for me. Yeah, it's not, changing your paradigm is probably one of the hardest things you'll ever do in life. We'll get into that in a moment of why that is. So let's talk about this. Do results just happen? No, results don't just happen. The law of sacrifice makes results happen. Did an artist, an artist that makes beautiful artwork, did they just become great by accident? Did a great salesperson just luck out on a deal? They keep just having a lot of luck? Did a great musician or a performer, a ballet performer, just get good by accident? No. Was a person just a natural born speaker? No. It was hours and hours and hours of relentless practice and discipline. So discipline comes into the picture here when we're talking about the law of sacrifice. Most people, and I want to read you something here, it's really good. Really lean in. People everywhere are awakening to the necessity of disciplining their thoughts and acts. We train domestic animals carefully. We harness the forces of nature to serve us regularly and well. And yet, when it comes to ourselves, the most valued of all, we let our thoughts run wild. Isn't that we train our dogs, we train our domestic animals, we harness the power of the sun and the wind to create power for us. We apply discipline in many areas, but in our way of thinking, how disciplined are we? How disciplined are we actually to produce better results? Something always has to be sacrificed for something else. No matter what we want of life, we have to give up something in order to get it. Now, and that order is important. No matter what we want of life, we have to give up something in order to get it. So give up first, and then you'll receive. People say, well, I don't have much. Well, create the space anyways. You'll have even more. When I couldn't pay my rent years ago, I decided to donate the rest away to a charity that we support, 3 Square Food Bank, and I went out there and packed the meals with my hands because that I had time I could donate. I felt all of a sudden like the richest guy in the world. For years, my focus was on me. I didn't have enough. Of course I was broke, sick, unhappy. My energy was inverted. The moment I started giving, everything changed. Everything. So do results just happen? No, they don't. Somebody that I've become acquainted with in Las Vegas, a great guy through my speaking coach, he's a speaker too. He's a former Olympian, and he won the gold medal at the Olympics not too long ago. And He was 16 when he wrote on his parents' garage door that he wanted to win the gold medal at the Olympics in BMX bicycling. And his parents were furious. You wrote on the garage door. And he goes, yeah, that's my goal. He didn't know what he was doing. What did he do? He programmed himself to look at that every single day. Then he participated in the local tournaments, the national championships. He won that. He qualified for the Olympics. As a 16-year-old kid going through his teenage years, saying no to parties, to girls, to everything around him. When all his friends was busy wasting their life doing mindless things, he stayed focused on that goal. I'm not saying we shouldn't enjoy life. Of course we should. But there's a lot of people that start learning how to waste their life as adolescents, and they keep doing it for the rest of their life because they're just so accustomed to it. He didn't. He stayed on track. He said no to all these temptations coming his way 2 months before the Olympics that he had qualified for through discipline. He wanted the discipline because he wanted the gold medal. Do you want the discipline because you want your goal? Do you really want it? How much do you want it on a scale from 1 to 10? Well, I'm kind of interested in it. Well, then just you're wasting your time. Do you really want it? It has to be a burning desire. If it isn't, then you're not going to want to build the discipline. Connor did. 2 months before the Olympics, he broke his wrist. And the expert said, if that happens again, you will be paralyzed in your arm for the rest of your life. He didn't care. He went right back on the track, right back up on that bike, and won the Olympics with one hand that was barely working. How the heck was he willing to? Did he take a calculated risk at that moment? Yes, he did. Had he prepared hours and hours and hours and hours for that moment? Yes, he had. You want to increase your sales? How much time are you preparing every day? You want to become a great public speaker? How many hours are you preparing? My first goal was to, or how about your health? How much time are you investing every day with discipline in your health? When I look back on my entertainment days when I performed magic, I sacrificed family gatherings, birthdays, all the time. When other people celebrated New Year's, holidays, we were out performing at their parties. All the holidays, all the birthdays. We sacrificed so much time with our families, so much time with our, significant others. That was normal. We wanted it so bad. So are you really willing to pay the price? You gotta say yes to that. So, when it comes to speaking, that was my first goal in my new field. Like, I wanted to become a very proficient public speaker. And I lived from the goal. I applied discipline. I did everything we're teaching now. My first paid speaking gig, and it shocked my speaking coach, I was paid $14,000 for the first time I stepped on stage as a paid speaker. And other people thought, well, you can't just do that. You have to build it up slowly. You have, other these big names, they've started here and then they made it there. I didn't care what they had done. I know I could do better. I could build a winning self-image. I could live from the frequency. I could apply the discipline required to become that kind of speaker. And I could do that over a relatively short period of time with a lot of short-term sacrifices to gain a longer-term win. The short-term sacrifices was speaking in the mirror 6 hours every single day for months to a point where there was no vocal cords left. I was willing to pay the price on a short-term basis to win a longer-term gain. So I was paid $14,000 for my first paid keynote. I don't do a lot of them anymore because I can't afford it. And people say, well, that sounds ridiculous. I can't afford spending weeks preparing for a keynote that I only earn $14,000 for. I could earn the same in an hour in other lines of work. So I can't afford that. So it depends on what we want to do in life, but are we willing to pay the price? Are we willing to apply the discipline short term for a longer term gain? Are we really willing? So look at anybody who's achieved anything of any consequence. They've all paid a price. All of them. And the ignorant people around us will say, well, they're just lucky, Luck is what happens when preparedness meets opportunity. Luck is what happens when you prepare long enough to force the opportunity to come your way. How can you prepare? You apply discipline. So are you willing to let it go? I'm willing to let everything in my life go in favor of my goal and in favor of my passion. Everything. I've proven it, and I would do it all over again. I'm not attached to physical. I really am not. People think I am. I really am not. I'm not attached to it whatsoever. I used to be. That's why I was a miserable person. Today I'm not attached to it. I enjoy it. I know it's part of my physical experience, and I know the physical is an expression of my level of awareness and of spirit, and I enjoy it, but I'm not attached to it. I'm not attached to it one bit. So there's 4 steps here I want you to integrate, and we're going to wrap this, actually not wrap it up, there's some more we're going to get through. First step is to give up the lesser to receive the greater. Make the space for the good you desire. All right? Make the space. Leo says, I've done it before, I'll do it again, but with greater desire and motivation. There you go. We can all think back on times in our life when we maybe unconsciously did this. We can replicate it, though, and we can keep doing it. With this awareness comes a totally different worldview. And the second step is focus on the greater. Focus right with me. Focus on greater. Focus on the greater. Focusing on the benefits that you will accrue longer term makes it easier to give up the short-term temptation. All right? So short-term sacrifice for long-term gain. Most people, most won't give up the short-term temptation. So where can you release to gain? Kalaya says, very helpful that you're speaking about this. I had resistance to that concept because it sounds negative in the beginning, and I don't believe that lack really exists. It doesn't, except in our own thinking. But now that makes really sense to me. Yeah, no, listen, prosperity is innately in our DNA. Lack and limitation is taught. It's something we inherit. It's all mind pollution. It comes from the outside. So good. All right. So focus on the greater. That is the second step. Where can you release short term to win longer term? And then implement this law through discipline. You've got to want discipline. And let's talk about for a moment what that is. What that really is. What is discipline? Most people think it's something that we learn, something that comes from the outside. Discipline is the ability to give yourself a command and stick to it. That's discipline. How good are we at giving ourselves a command and sticking to it? In between Christmas and New Year's, I was introduced to this 75-day heart challenge. That's what it's called. 75 days of living a certain way, eating a certain way, exercising a certain way. It's pretty stringent. You have to drink a gallon of water, among other things. And intuitively, I knew it was right for me. I made the decision in 5 seconds. I couldn't drink alcohol and I'm not a big drinker anyways, but in between Christmas and New Year's, for most people, I think that would be a challenge. But I made that decision right then and there, and people around me said, well, why are you doing that? We're in the middle of Christmas and New Year's. And I said, if I can't make it now, when the temptations are the greatest, I won't make it later. And so I made the decision right then and there. I stuck to 75 days of doing things in a certain way. And yes, did I benefit from it physically? Of course I did. But that wasn't the aim. The aim was to discipline myself even more in my thinking. So people who have created great results in their life, regardless at what level, whether it's health, wealth, happiness, great relationships, they're all at a certain point, they have become very proficient at applying discipline. It's to give yourself a command and follow it. Most people are extremely undisciplined. They make decisions, they think they make decisions. They really don't. They express hopes and wishes, and their behaviors all over the map. They don't stick to one thing long enough to get the result. Squirrel, something else that's blinging over there, and we go for that. So fourth step is to practice. Disciplined thinking. What does that really mean? Practice. First of all, we have to apply discipline in our behavior, and then we have to practice disciplined thinking. So one way to do that is to surround yourself with positive thinkers. Make sure you surround yourself with people who are also thinking on the same frequency. And then you want to make sure you expose yourself to positive input. Most people allow themselves to be exposed to negative input. So give up watching, reading the news, and instead replace that habit of listening to what's coming through that indoctrination, which it's news anymore. It's just brainwashing of people in most cases. And so, especially here in the U.S., I mean, there's no objective journalism left. So you don't get an actual worldview. Right, that's a different story. We don't have time to go into that. But sacrificing that is so easy in favor of educating yourself in the same time slot, spending time reading a book, getting into material that really will bring you forward in your life. And maybe identify a place where you go to stretch your thoughts, to work on yourself. That is, and why is this hard? Let's look at this. Yeah, practice disciplined thinking. Should we have learned that? Yes, we should. So let's get into the thinking part here. Why is it that it's so hard for people to apply this? Now, if you have been in and around our programs, in our community, you would have seen the figure that I'm about to draw many times. I don't care if you've seen it 1,000 times. I know you'll get more out of it. I do on a daily basis. So it was really created by a chiropractor back in 1934, Dr. Thurman Fleet, and he realized we had a problem in healing. He said, we're treating symptoms. We're not treating the real cause of the problem. He goes, the symptom in the body is just an expressed effect of a main cause in the mind that hasn't been treated. Beautiful concept, isn't it? Now we're treating symptoms in all areas of life, basically, because we don't understand how the mind functions. So the large circle is the mind, the small circle is the body, and the mind is divided into two parts. There's two parts to the mind. You have the conscious, intellectual mind, intellectual mind, then you have the subjective, emotional mind. And then, of course, you have the physical body down here that goes on and produce the things we call results. So why is it hard to apply this discipline? It is hard because the subjective emotional mind rules your behavior and your actions 95 to 98% of the time. 95 to 98% of the time, it's pure autopilot. So we keep educating that part of the mind. We keep cramming more information in through our senses here, through the books we read. These are like little antennae that sticks out of our conscious mind. We receive information in school, and maybe we do courses and things afterwards, and we educate ourselves. We actually, education, properly understood, is drawing out from within, developing what's already there. The illusion we've been taught to live is that education is gathering and remembering information. That's not it at all. Education is teaching people to behave as they do not behave, like John Ruskin said. So what we have to realize is that for you to change behavior, you have to change that part of the mind. It's not enough to know this stuff. Knowing this is not going to make any darn difference in your life. So applying discipline is really where your mental faculties come in, especially the will, which is a mental faculty, that is resident here in your conscious mind. Now you can develop that. That is exactly what we spend a lot of time on in our programs, among other things, of course. But there's 6 mental faculties. One of them is the will. You can harness the power of your mind and really take conscious control over the paradigm. And as you do that, apply the discipline first in your thinking, then in your emotions. That becomes the actions, and that changes the end result. Yeah, Sabina says educate means to draw out from within. It comes from the Latin roots educo, to induce, to withdraw or bring forth from within. We treat kids as empty cups that's being sent to school to have the cup filled up. And what we don't realize is that the cup is already full. We're just going to learn how to draw it out of them. Kids are perfect. They're linguistic geniuses. It's amazing how much stuff we can get right later in life because we didn't get it early on. So you have some assignments today. I'm going to give you some assignments, something to do. Okay, this won't be easy. Elin says, I want to share this with more people. Everyone should know this. They should invite them to this community. My goodness, it's free, it's open. Invite your friends and family. Allow them to participate. I personally believe the biggest gift you can give another human being is the gift of personal development. Open the door. Allow them to step into a greater version of themselves. But you can only open the door. You can't make them. The moment you try and make them, that it force negates. Kitty, yes, it's so living and really makes so much sense, much more than everything else I've tried. It really activates so much in me, and only positive thoughts, to create something for myself and do everything great for myself. Yeah, you have to put yourself in the starring role in your movie. It's absolutely. So you're gonna get some assignments. I promise you that. This won't be easy, but it will be necessary. This is where discipline and willpower really comes in. There's 3 areas of your life that I want you to focus on between today and tomorrow. All right? First area, things. Things. That should be an I. There you go. Things. What do you mean by that, Anders? You have clothes in your closet. Most likely, if you're like most people, your closet is already full. You have to sort of squeeze in new clothes, and when you get it back from the dry cleaner, you have to squeeze it in because it's already full. Give up. Donate everything away that you haven't worn in the last month. You say, well, I'm saving all my great dresses for a good occasion. Well, then start using it now because you woke up today. That's a great occasion in and of itself. It could be other things. It could be clutter. It could be stuff in your environment that you know does not serve you. But I need for you to commit to this. Give up maybe emptying the closet today of things you haven't worn for the last month, and it will leave a beautiful open space for greater clothes that you really would value, that's in harmony with a new self-image. That's the first one. A things sacrifice, releasing things, whatever thing it is. Could be the car. I want a new car, but give up the one you have then. The new one will find its way to you. Well, I can't because I need transportation. Trust me, when you have the courage and you have the discipline to give it up and sell it, the nature will pour that vacuum faster. Then your head will start spinning. You're like, what the heck happened? It happened so quick. Yes, it happens quick. You gotta have the stamina and the courage to do this, though. So first, things. 2, people. You are surrounded by people who don't know more than they know. You're surrounded by people who are beautiful people who are probably not going anywhere. You were the average of that because they were your friends. 3 people can you decide to consciously spend less time with? Just decide when they call the next time. Yes, maybe you accept their lunch invitation, but you don't hang around. You give them half an hour and you're out of there. And you limit the frequency for when you see them. 3 people, could be family. I don't care how close they are to you. You've got to have the courage to do that. Okay? So, 3 people. Radina says the difficulty of letting go if these people are your parents. Yes, it is, but it's not impossible. And I'm saying you have to let them go completely, Radina. But consciously spend less time. You can send them love at a distance. You can send them a note every now and then so they know you're there. But if they have a tendency to influence you in a negative way, you cannot allow yourself to stay there. I've cut family members out of my life temporarily, one person for 5 years. I gave her 20 minutes recently, actually, after 5 years, to complain, which she started on. I switched the conversation and she followed, and I gave her another chance here in a few weeks. It wasn't easy. It was a person I was very close to, but I knew I had to do it. I knew I had to do it. All right? And then 3, health, 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 health. If you don't have health, you will never have wealth. Health, health, health. If you don't have a good health, you won't have wealth. You won't have a rich life. You will. It's just should be the first aim. There's things that you can discipline yourself to eat in favor of something else, to a point where it becomes natural part of the paradigm, habitual way of acting and habitual way of behaving. There's things you can do in your habitual nature that will help improve your health. I know you know what it is, but I also know that you know that the next time the chocolate cake lands in front of you, your paradigm most likely will win. And you say this time, not again. It won't happen. I'm taking conscious control with my will, and I keep impressing that idea on my subjective mind over and over and over again. Kirsten said, I have not used time with my sisters for a long time, but I think I have to let go totally. You probably have. You probably need to. Release them to their highest good. All the love you can at a distance. Alfonso says, yes, I recently became aware of such individuals. Felt good letting go. It really does. You're honoring yourself by doing that. You can't afford hanging around people who are just influencing you in a negative way. So that is the homework. Let me know in the chat if that is something you can commit to. All right? Let me know in the chat if you are absolutely committed to acting on this. No, not chocolate. Cinnamon rolls, they're just as bad. White bread is the worst thing. Don't put that in your body. At least in Denmark, we have rugbrød. That's a tad better. What can you give up to consume less sugar that leads into more inflammation, that leads to joint pain, to overweight? These are all lifestyles, and these are all illnesses. They're all an expression of a main cause, and the main cause is lack of discipline. And so the doctor will start giving you pills, and they'll start looking at the symptom, and we'll have to look at, that is the wrong thing to look at. It's a lack of mental discipline. That's where it starts. Are we willing to really pay the price? Are we willing to discipline our way of thinking so that it becomes our way of feeling, so that it becomes the way of acting in the world? Because if we aren't, we're going to be swimming in a sea of symptoms for the rest of our lives, trying to fix the symptom. And what we're really doing, and this is a ridiculous way of living, and this is where most people live, they try and change this without changing that. So they go straight from this to here, forcing a new behavior, that will never work. That is bypassing the paradigm. It won't work. We see it at New Year's resolutions. These are all people that advertise their ignorance about how this works. Forcing a new behavior. This is the year I'm really going to improve. You see them in the gym for the next week, and all of a sudden they drift off. They're not there. Why? They never change the paradigm. They try and force a new behavior. And of course, that behavior had to come back to where that person was programmed at. So there they are, absent in the gym. But they leave room for people that are more committed in the gym, I guess. Nature abhors a vacuum. Maybrit says, I'm committed to acting on this. I love that, Maybrit. Lisa says, yep, yes, and yeah. Kirsten says, you're so right about the sugar and wheat flour. Oh my gosh, it's pure poison. It won't bring any good. And yet we're programmed to, right? We're out of the family gathering, the dessert comes around. That is the moment where you are being tested. Are you really willing to pay the price? Are you really willing? Because the chocolate cake is right there. Maybe it's homemade. Maybe it looks really good. Our parents made it. We've had it for years. That's the razor's edge. That is where it's those defining moments that will really communicate to the world how disciplined you are as a person. And overeating is also a bad habit. Of course it is. Of course it is. It's a bad thing to do. And we should first of all eat nutrient-rich, nutrient-dense food. And when we do, well, first of all, we won't be hungry. The body will be saturated, but we don't do that. We eat a lot of processed crap that don't do anything but pollute our body and our brain. Pardon my language. Could you influence them in a positive way? Yes, you could, Karine, but you can't change them. The only thing you can do is become the example. They will follow. They will follow if you do this good enough. Birgit says, woo, that's a challenge. That's a big challenge. Yes, it is. You're here to grow, Birgit, and if you can't do this, and I'm going to be very honest with you, I'm going to say something to you that my mentor, Bob Proctor, told me once. He says, Anders, if you can't make that decision, you just don't deserve to win. It was in a phone conversation. He hung up on me right after. And I knew if I didn't follow through, if I didn't discipline myself and actually stay on course and make the decisions required, he would never speak to me again. That was it. I was shaking. I had to make a decision that was really uncomfortable. But man, am I so grateful I did it. It created a vacuum. It created a space for something even greater to enter my life. So All right, guys, don't forget, you have a team that is here committed to helping you grow, to bring more of you to the game. Lean in, accept their help. Most people say, oh, well, they're just going to try and sell me something. Of course, if it's a fit, they're going to try and help you make a decision that's the best for you. But if it's not a fit, they'll be honest with you. They will tell you stuff you may not want to hear. They're not there to be your best friend. They're there to help you get the results you tell us that you want. And what we think we need and what we really need might be two very different things. I've often felt prey to my own thinking, like I know what I need to do, I know what... Well, when we see the world from our level of awareness, what you want to do is surround yourself with people who are at a different level, who already achieved what you want to achieve, or who are moving in the right direction at least. Our team is a product of this material. I'm a product of this material. If you want better, we can show you exactly what you need to do. But at least allow us now to help you get clear on your goal statement, become aware of the illusions. You'll get an email invitation with a call like that, and get your call in now. Don't wait till the end of the week. The end of the week will be, the calendars will be full, and the boat will have left the dock. The train will have left the station. Now is your opportunity to jump on the train and ride with us, all right? To really speed up your manifestation, speed up that goal creation that you want more than ever. Now's that chance. So on the replay page, you have a link for David, Christina, and Pascal's calendar as well. They will reach out to you. Embrace that. They're just there to help you, and it may or may not be a match, but at least you gain some clarity. That is our main objective here, is to help you gain clarity. It's not who you are that holds you back from anything. There's spiritual perfection. There's a spiritual blueprint in you that is perfect. That is not what's holding you back. What's holding most people back are all those illusions of who they think they are not. Lack of discipline is certainly one of them. Lack of being willing to pay the price is certainly one of them. But you become aware now, and that will enable you to step into growth in the future and for many, many years to come.
I really hope that you took a lot of valuable insight away from this video today. And to make sure you stay updated in terms of everything Real Magic World, including programs and live events, make sure that you enable your notifications, and most importantly, subscribe to this channel so that you will be the first to know.